I want to comment on three brief issues tonight. One is I want to talk about how LGBT people call marriage a civil right or refer to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender movement as one for civil rights. It's something obviously the other panelists have talked about too, and I want to just bring the perspective of GLAAD as a legal rights organization. We obviously at GLAAD see civil rights as the fundamental rights of citizenship, which includes the right to be treated equally under law, not to be discriminated against, the right to participate in the political process. And we see marriage as a civil rights issue because, as Byron said, it involves exclusion from a government institution, and by that exclusion, you have a further exclusion of numerous state and federal legal protections which are tied to that institution, as well as something much more profound. And I'll get into that when we talk about loving, this basic freedom of this basic right of a free people to make this profound personal choice of who to marry. Now, having said all of that, I have to immediately stop because context setting, I think, is so important here, and say that we actually don't agree with our societies tying so many protections, legal protections for families, exclusively to marriage. We don't agree with the federal government's attempts in various guises, including marriage promotion and TANF regulations and so on, to coerce people to marry. And our docket also reflects, although we get a lot of attention about marriage, our docket in fact also reflects that we are still working to create legal respect for families that are based on form, on function, and on choice, and not simply on marriage. And at the same time, marriage exists, and the complete exclusion of gay people from marriage is wrong, period. And it's one of the many ways in which gay people in this country still do not have formal equality under law. And an enormous part of GLAAD's mission is and always has been getting to the point of having one standard of justice for all that does not depend on sexual orientation. We know perfectly well, we have many lessons we have learned, we know perfectly well that achieving formal equality is not going to solve all the problems of LGBT people. Formal equality has not ended racism. But the law, in fact, sets important standards and can make a meaningful difference. And it's worth fighting for. One other piece of context I want to add, particularly about marriage, as lawyers, we have heard a great deal, and I'm sure we will continue to hear a great deal, about how it affects people when the government officially denies respect for their relationship. And those who, Massachusetts is now different, but those who can afford to are often forced to spend thousands of dollars on lawyers to secure rights and protections that other people have simply by being citizens and plunking down a small fee for a marriage license. And of course, the truth of the matter too is that those with the least resources and the most vulnerable have no access to those rights and protections absent marriage.